So, hello everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all participants and viewers of our session today. Great to have you in our YouTube stream. And mid-February, we have started with the ALM application lifecycle management webcasts. And today is our third episode out of this series. Altogether, we have 4 webcasts distributed over 4 weeks. In the introductory session of the webcast series, we provided just a general comparison of SAP Cloud ALM and SAP Solution Manager. In the second session, our expert speaker Kai took a closer look at how the ALM platforms support SAP S/4HANA Cloud or RISE with SAP implementation project. In the session today, Kai will investigate the operations support of SAP Cloud ALM and SAP Solution Manager. And Kai Rademan, who is our expert speaker, is Senior Solution Expert for Application Lifecycle Management at SAP. My name is Larissa Brinkmann from the SAP Global User Groups organization, and I'm your host for today. We kindly ask you to post your questions in the chat. We have live chat supporting this stream, and we will answer the questions at the end of the session after the presentation of Kai. The PDF of this session will be available after the session under the same link in the description to this video. And with this, I wish you great interaction. And Kai, the stage is yours.
Yeah, thank you, Larissa, and hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. As just said by Larissa, today I want to take a closer look at the comparison of SAP Cloud ALM and SAP Solution Manager for operating your SAP S/4HANA Cloud or other systems from SAP. This is part of the series. I have done the similar sessions already as the overview and the implementation part. And as said, now it's time for operations. However, I have to briefly show you this disclaimer. So I will also tell a bit to you about the future, and what I tell about the future, it's not guaranteed that it will turn out exactly this way. Therefore, I just have to show this disclaimer. But now let's really start. So the question is, which application lifecycle management solution is better for your SAP S/4HANA Cloud or RISE with SAP project or for operations of your systems? And you might know already that both the SAP Solution Manager and SAP Cloud ALM are provided for SAP customers without paying any additional license. This SAP Solution Manager is included in the on-premise maintenance agreements of SAP, and SAP Cloud ALM is included in these cloud subscriptions that you might have from SAP or in the enterprise support on-premise maintenance contract. And therefore, it's a valid question for you, which of these two options shall I use for my landscape? And SAP gives a very general recommendations on this, which you see here. There are some areas where it's not so straightforward to find a solution. I have talked about the implementation part already in the previous session. I will not do it today, but I will concentrate on the operations area. And here in operations, it's very easy, the recommendation from SAP, and this is to use SAP Cloud ALM for operations, regardless of which version of SAP S/4HANA Cloud you have, or which, even if you have an SAP S/4HANA on-premise systems or SAP Business Suite, at least for new customers, our recommendation is to use SAP Cloud ALM. And in this session, I will not really doing a complete comparison of these functionalities, but I would focus on SAP Cloud ALM for operations to let you know which functionality is provided by SAP Cloud ALM, and also to mention to you which parts are missing compared to SAP Solution Manager. Or on the other side, this is also available, which parts are only available in SAP Cloud ALM. We have another operations platform at SAP, which is the SAP Focused Run. I will not touch Focused Run today. SAP Focused Run is not included in the maintenance or subscriptions which you have, but is an individual product which you have to pay for. Therefore, forgive me that I will not focus on this area today. So what is SAP Cloud ALM for operations? So basically, SAP Cloud ALM for operations serves as a central platform, or SAP Cloud ALM in general serves as a general platform. And for the operations area, of course, the first thing, it is important to get data from the systems within your landscapes. So this is what is called here the inbound integration. The data from your SAP S/4HANA Cloud system tenant, for example, is transferred to SAP Cloud ALM. And in SAP Cloud ALM, we have different use cases for operations, looking at different areas coming from business process monitoring down to health monitoring. I will take a closer look on all these use cases in the following slides, and what's probably even more interesting for you, also showing the functionality directly on in SAP Cloud ALM demo tenant. So this data comes from the systems to SAP Cloud ALM, and here now the next step for operations is to decide what shall be done with this data. Are there any events that are that need to have some handling on? This is then done by a central intelligent event processing in SAP Cloud ALM. And as a result of this, the problem resolution is triggered to do whatever is necessary. This goes from creating alerts in lists or for sending messages, notifications to the people that shall deal with these incidents. We have analytics and intelligence functionality. If you want to do or need to do root cause analysis, for example, this would be available then for you. And we also have the so-called operations automation that we can trigger workflows for handling these incidents that have happened. And then finally, we have the outbound integration. Not everything is done directly in SAP Cloud ALM, but we can send out emails to externals. We can create chats, create tickets on service desks, task management, these kinds of things to really finish the process of not only observing an incident, but also making sure that the incident is handled. One thing which is special for SAP Cloud ALM for operations is the so-called business service management. We have noticed at SAP over time that the business users that use SAP applications know the business applications they are doing, but they do not know the technical details of the services included in a business process, at least not in such a detail. And therefore, we have created with the business service management an additional view, so to say, for the more business-related people in your company, that they can understand what you tell them or what you show them. And regarding showing, let me switch over to the SAP Cloud ALM system to show you some of the functionality which we have in SAP Cloud ALM for the operations part. And let's, for example, start with the integration and exception monitoring. In the integration and exception monitoring, SAP Cloud ALM takes a special look at the communication between different components. So this is not something that you see in an individual system, but between the system and the network and so on, the communication between the system. Of course, we have the possibility to create different views here. And if I take a look, for example, in the alerts on my SAP S/4HANA cloud system, I come to the list of alerts that are available. And you see there are different types of alerts. Here we have the AIF framework, but we also have this scroll down messages from other things like, for example, do we have them conquer objects here? So it's not only doing just one type of communication, but all communication ways that are typically used in SAP applications and SAP environments are accessible here for doing the monitoring. So let me then switch back to the next example, that is the business process monitoring. In business process monitoring, we have a special view on business KPIs that are available. And if I, for example, take a lead to cash process, and then here in this case, how the demo system is configured, there is just the order to cash setup, where we, for example, see open sales documents, where we see complete sales documents with delivery problems. So these are really business KPIs that are relevant for your colleagues in the lines of business that deal with things, to really bring the business view into the operations platform. Next, what I wanted to show to you is the job and automation monitoring for the job and automation monitoring. We have here also some examples. Let's take the S/4HANA private cloud. You see here also, first of all, a separation between technical exceptions, application exceptions, or high runtime. And on this MySAP S/4HANA private cloud system, I have an application exception. And if I take a closer look here, I see that is a problem with IDOC communication. And if I take a look at this, I can get the details, and I can also get more information on what is the run data that is used there, what recurrence have been there of this job, which executables, which metrics are part. So very good overview about what the jobs and automation on the system is, what is the status of this. Then let's take a brief look at the health monitoring. Health monitoring is similar to system monitoring, but SAP S/4HANA, SAP Cloud ALM is focusing more on cloud applications. And for cloud, of course, the cloud provider does most of the operations part, and the health monitoring just gives you an overview about the most important parts which are available. So let's take the system here, the integration suite, just for an example. You see there are a lot of KPIs available for individual components that we have in SAP environments. So you can really take a look at the most important technical KPIs on these components with the health monitoring functionality. And finally, I also wanted to show you the so-called business service management. I briefly told you business service management means that you take a business view on the technical systems. Here again, we see the lead to cash scenario. We can, for a detailed, take a look at the service levels that are available there. Let's get back and go to the event calendar. In the event calendar, we also have a scheduling of maintenance events. You see, for example, here, these little boxes that are information about maintenance that has happened last weekend. And we also have a special service level reporting, which gives you a high overview about the service level of multiple systems. Here at the moment, I am in the monthly view, and since we have the 1st of March today, there is just one column with green. The other is just forward-looking, which we do not know. But if I switch back to the February, the previous month, you see there is not everything green, but if we go down, there are also days where the service level has not been met. And this is also very high-level information about what was the status that you have provided for your lines of business. So with this, let's get back to the presentation, and now let's have a brief look at the comparison. And here we have to, on the one hand side, of course, compare the functionality, but we also have to consider the cost. And regarding the cost, we have to clearly say that SAP Cloud ALM is much cheaper for you as a customer than SAP Solution Manager. This is because SAP Cloud ALM is a full cloud service, which means you do not need to care about hardware and infrastructures. You do not need to operate the system. You do not need to regularly deploy patches, nodes, or support packages to the system. And also regarding the operations part, with the SAP Solution Manager, you also have to take care to set up so-called agents for the communication between a Solution Manager and the managed systems. With SAP Cloud ALM, this is not necessary. SAP Cloud ALM communicates with the system not via agents, but directly via HTTPS communication. Okay, that was the cost, but now on the other side, the use cases which are provided by SAP Cloud ALM. And here I would like to start with the integration and exception monitoring. As seen in the demo, this really checks the communication between multiple multiple components included in your environment. And the integration and exception monitoring correlates single messages to end-to-end message flows, and then does the monitoring and the alerting analysis and so on. Comparing the integration and exception monitoring with SAP Cloud ALM, with SAP Solution Manager, sorry. SAP Solution Manager can also cover non-ABAP on-premise systems from SAP. SAP Cloud ALM is only available for ABAP-based on-premise systems, for cloud systems, of course, as well, and SAP Process Integration, SAP PI, is also supported by the integration and exception monitoring, but other non-ABAP on-premise components are not covered here. Therefore, these cases, if you want to use SAP Cloud ALM, you would have to take a look directly on the involved systems into the logs in there. Regarding business process monitoring, the general principle is clear. There are business KPIs that are monitored, and if there are some anomalies occur, alert is triggered to let you know about this. Comparing here Cloud ALM with SAP Solution Manager, the one thing is on Cloud ALM, the setup of the business processing is much easier compared to SAP Solution Manager, because SAP Cloud ALM uses auto discovery functions to find out which processes are used by you, which processes it makes sense to monitor. You do not need to model the business processes first before you can start with business process monitoring in SAP Cloud ALM. What is not supported by SAP or by business process monitoring in SAP Cloud ALM is the monitoring of technical KPIs, and these are monitored by other use cases like the integration and exception monitoring I have just talked about, or the job automation monitoring in SAP Cloud ALM. So business process monitoring in SAP Cloud ALM is really focusing on the business relevant KPIs. Next topic is the user monitoring. In Solution Manager, it is called user experience monitoring. In SAP Cloud ALM, we have two ways of user monitoring. The first is the synthetic user monitoring. This is comparable to the user experience monitoring in SAP Solution Manager. However, the main difference here is that with a Solution Manager, we did the user experience monitoring via the simulation of HTTP and SAP GUI requests. With SAP Cloud ALM, we use scripts of Selenium. Selenium is an open source automation tool which supports many browsers, I would even say, in the way that you can have more chances to really also monitor cloud services which are available in the cloud, not based on SAP GUI or HTTP requests. Besides this synthetic user monitoring, we also provide the real user monitoring in SAP Cloud ALM. This functionality is not available in SAP Solution Manager. The real user monitoring in SAP Cloud ALM gives you the possibility to really trace a single request of a user instead of just looking at statistics. You can really use this to identify the actual root cause of performance or functional problems. And yeah, this is a good possibility which we have in SAP Cloud ALM. However, also compared to the other scenarios here again, non-ABAP on-premise systems are not supported by real user monitoring, at least not at the moment. Job and automation monitoring, as the name indicates, just checks if jobs are running fine, and if there is some problems occur, then of course the notification starts. You have possibilities to analyze the root cause of the system. This is all possible. Comparing SAP Cloud ALM with SAP Solution Manager in this area, here I also have to state that the coverage of non-ABAP on-prem systems is not available in Cloud ALM. So non-ABAP cloud systems, of course, it does work, at least for many of them, but non-ABAP on-prem systems is not available. And at least at the moment, we have not specific performance statistics for SAP Business Warehouse in SAP Cloud ALM. And another important differentiator between the two platforms is that in SAP Solution Manager with the job management, we also have a functionality for job scheduling available. Job scheduling management is not provided by SAP Cloud ALM, but I will briefly talk about this in just a moment. Yes, then we have the health monitoring. As said, it's not a full-fledged system monitoring, but just the monitoring of the most important system KPIs, which are checked there for the S/4HANA systems. For example, we have more than 120 KPIs that are technical KPIs that are included in the health monitoring. And this is also things, for example, if a certificate is not valid anymore, this is also a good point where you get a warning then through the health monitoring that something needs to be done, or if other problems occur that are on one hand side interesting for you, but also needs to trigger some activities for handling them. This is also can be done via the health monitoring of SAP Cloud ALM. Regarding configuration and security analysis, just briefly, there is something available in Cloud ALM already today. However, we are not reached the end here. We have additional functionality planned in the near future. So at the moment, it's clearly to say SAP Solution Manager can do more than SAP Cloud ALM, but we are on the way on enhancing SAP Cloud ALM, because we, of course, know this is important to have a good way of doing the configuration and security analysis. And then if a problem has occurred, as said in the introduction already, someone needs to decide what shall happen with these incidents, and this is done by the so-called intelligent event processing in SAP Cloud ALM, where then either a message is triggered, a ticket is created. You see all these different use cases on the right-hand side. So SAP Cloud ALM can create tickets on third-party service desks, for example, but we also have some operations automations functionality. The BTP workflow can be triggered by the intelligent event processing. SAP Intelligent RPA is supported, or the SAP Automation Pilot, just to name these examples, are included in the functionality of SAP Cloud ALM, and also the so-called business service management can be triggered by the intelligent event processing. Business service management, this functionality in this way is also not available in SAP Solution Manager, only in SAP Cloud ALM, and therefore, this is showing that the focus of SAP Cloud ALM is more business-centric than technical administration focused. Just a brief thing to mention here, the SAP Cloud Availability Center, which gives you information about the availability of SAP cloud services, which you have, and is also feeding its data into SAP Cloud ALM. This just indicates that you get an overview here about your entire landscape not only the on-premise systems, but all cloud services which you use from SAP are covered here via the information from the Cloud Availability Center. Yeah, as said, some functions are not supported by SAP Cloud ALM, at least not yet. Therefore, I have just included here a list of these 6 operations functions with data consistency management. There we at SAP have not finalized our decision whether to take this in SAP Cloud ALM or not. Other functions are then either provided by other products, business process improvement, for example, is done by the SAP Signavio Process Insights. And if you have a RISE with SAP contract, at least you have some usage rights for SAP Signavio included there as well. Same with the job scheduling management, where we have the SAP Process Automation as a tool for managing these jobs. And other functionality like system recommendation, they are provided as independent cloud services. IT task management, there we have open APIs for triggering things in Jira or ServiceNow, for example. And just the intrascope, which we used for the root cause analysis in SAP Solution Manager for non-ABAP environments on-premise, that is not planned to be included in SAP Cloud ALM. So this was just a brief 30-minute or so overview about the functionality of SAP Cloud ALM for operations and comparing this with SAP Solution Manager. Just to briefly mention it, of course, you can also use SAP Focused Run for operations functions. SAP Focused Run has some additional advanced functionality compared to SAP Cloud ALM or compared to SAP Solution Manager. If you want to use it, you just have to license SAP Focused Run. This is an independent product not included in your standard SAP subscriptions or maintenance agreements. So, and with this, I come to my almost last slide. Basically, what I would recommend to you, if you are a user of SAP Solution Manager at the moment, then I would say for the implementation part, we talked about this in the other session, it depends on your requirements whether to use SAP Cloud ALM or SAP Solution Manager. But if you use SAP Solution Manager for operations, then I would at least at the moment recommend to you to at least try out SAP Cloud ALM for operations. You could even use SAP Cloud ALM for operations in parallel with using Solution Manager for operations. So this is possible. And then make a little project. The effort is not big compared to what you know from SAP Solution Manager. Just try it out, and I'm sure many of you at least will be convinced by looking at this and will use in the future SAP Cloud ALM for operations at least. Yeah, and with this, just the final slide before my thank you. Just remember, next week will be another session of this series. Next week, I want to focus on services and IT service management. I hope this is also interesting for you. And with this, I say thank you for listening here at the moment. I enjoyed it, at least presenting to you. I hope you enjoyed this session as well. And now it's time for Larissa to take over again and to do the question and answer session.
Okay, thank you, Kai. And we have several questions in the chat. Most of them are around system monitoring. And the first question is regarding the concept of system monitoring on SAP Solution Manager, when we can define templates to apply to different systems. Is it going to be available in health monitoring or something similar?
Yeah, the comparison of system monitoring in Solution Manager or to SAP Cloud ALM, that would be in health monitoring, that you use these KPIs, technical KPIs, which are there, and group them, create views on them. You can create such groups views already today. However, it's not available at the moment that you can use these such groups as templates. This is something that is still on our agenda to come. That is not available today. But yeah, the big advantage of SAP Cloud ALM is that we have a daily delivery and bi-weekly shipment of new functionality. So I do not know exactly how long you have to wait, but it's not either half a year or a year to wait, but there can be new functionality available every fortnight.
All right, so it sounds like in Cloud ALM, this functionality might be available sooner as in Solution Manager.
Yeah, at least sooner as compared to what you know, since you are a user of SAP Solution Manager from the SAP Solution Manager side.
All right, thank you for that. I hope this helps. The next question is health monitoring of on-prem Java and other standalone components on the product roadmap? And if so, approximately when it will be released?
No, at the moment, we only focus on-prem ABAP-based components, not on Java components. Yeah, this is so it's on this. It's not on our at least 1 or 2 years roadmap, but things can change in the future. But I cannot give any estimation if really it will come and when it will come.
All right, thank you for that. For those in the call, please post your questions in the chat as Kai is available for Q&A now. And yeah, maybe one question from my side. If I want to learn more about SAP Cloud ALM for operation, where can I find training material and additional information?
Yeah, basically it's very close to you. I hope it is there already. At least the plan is that we wanted to include links to different trainings, to different videos and so on in the description of this session. So just in YouTube, go to the session description, and at least I believe it is available already there at the moment, and just follow the link or select which of this information brings you forward. There are trainings at Open SAP. There are expert guided implementation sessions. There are so-called missions from the Discovery Center. There's a lot of formats on how to learn, and it depends on, of course, just your way of preferred learning, which one to take.
All right. Thank you for that. We definitely have all these links in the description to every video of the ALM webcast. So when you go to the description, you will find the collection of all the links that will bring you to more information. I can't see more questions in the chat. As I've already indicated, the PDF to this session will be available in the description to this video. So if you do not have immediate questions, but have some follow-up questions, definitely Kai will be happy to follow up with you on that. And yes, we have additional question in the chat. If we have actively using a chair or in Solution Manager, what about features in Cloud ALM? Can we migrate them later? What is the process going forward?
Yeah, if you talk about this change request management or charm, this we have
Charm,
discussed
yes.
in the other session already. There might be some things that is missing there for you to bring you to a decision not to use SAP Cloud ALM for implementation. But it is possible to use SAP Cloud ALM for operations and using SAP Solution Manager for implementation in parallel. So just if there is not enough support for implementation projects in SAP Cloud ALM, does not hinder you on using SAP Cloud ALM for the operations part. And also, as I will explain next week for the service area, it's also possible to use SAP Cloud ALM for service and using SAP Solution Manager for the implementation functionality.
All right, so this charm was already covered in one of the previous sessions, or would this be covered in the upcoming session?
No, the charm change request management was covered in the previous session on the implementation part.
So the second one, right? Then yes. I will post the link to this session in the chat for the convenience of the person who have asked this question.
Yeah,
so 1 second.
Thanks.
So there is a follow-up question. Will there be any support packs coming in the future for Solution Manager? Is SAP trying to retire Solution Manager by 2030?
Yeah, the maintenance of SAP Solution Manager, I want also touch it next week in the session, but let me briefly tell you it is. So the mainstream maintenance of Solution Manager will end by end of 2027, and the extended maintenance will be offered until end of 2030 in the same way as we do this for the SAP Business Suite. You might know Solution Manager is based on the Business Suite functionality, and therefore we will follow the same strategy. However, this does not mean that you cannot use SAP Solution Manager afterwards. There were just some restriction if you just go into the so-called customer-specific maintenance that will follow after the mainstream or extended maintenance of SAP Solution Manager. There are some SAP notes explaining details on this. I do not have the numbers by heart, but as I said, if you join next week's session, I will take a bit closer look at this as well in this session.
Right, thank you very much. I hope this was helpful, the information, and as promised, I've posted the link to the session number 2 on charm, and the upcoming session was already posted in the chat too. So the last chance to bring up your questions. I can't see more questions now. If there will be no more questions, thank you to all the participants of today's session, to all the viewers. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for bringing up questions. And of course, we will be very much happy to welcome you in the upcoming session next week. And with this, we receive one more question in the chat. Is SAP trying to use content activation like when we upgrade from 7.1 to 7.2, so we can migrate Solman 7.2 Charm to Cloud ALM?
Yes, we are working on a so-called, we call it transition. It will not be exactly the same as we did it from Solution Manager 7.1 to 7.2, but we are working on this together with also the user groups. At least the German user group is closely working with us there, and also we have contacts to the American SAP user groups. By this way, always thank you very much for these user groups that helps us on going in the right direction. Yes, we are working on it. We have some ideas, or not ideas, some plans published already, and yeah, not sure other colleagues of mine are really working on the transition topic, but maybe it's also a good idea to at least propose them to do a session on this in the near future as well on this channel. Let's see.
Right. So if this is of an interest for an audience, I would appreciate some indication in the chat whether this topic is of interest for the audience, so we can then add it to our topics pool and offer a dedicated session on it later in the year. So if you are still in the session, please indicate if you will be interested in this deep dive. So, all right. I can't see more information in the chat or any reactions. Let's see, maybe there will be a follow-up. And yes, again, thank you, Kai, for your presentation, for sharing your knowledge. And we will be very much happy to have you in the session next week. And again, to all the viewers and participants session today. Please stay tuned with us, join the session next week. Also leverage the content that is already available. The links to all the sessions are provided in the descriptions to the video. So yeah, stay tuned and we will be happy to welcome you next week.
Yeah, thank you also from my side. And yeah, if you have additional questions on this, also just feel free to drop me an email that either if I can answer it personally, or a colleague of mine who is an expert on this individual topic that you might ask can answer. It's always great supporting you as a customer because you pay our money, and therefore it's important to have you. Thank you very much.
Yes, and maybe one more indication to Srikant, if you are still in the session, if you happen to be a member of the user group, maybe it would make sense for you to connect to the group that work on this topic, especially if you happen to be member of ASUC, of American User Group, or DSAG, German-speaking user group. Just let us know so we can connect you to the right working stream. So with this, again, thank you very much. I will close the session now and we'll be very much happy to welcome you next week. With this, thank you. Have a great day, evening, and we see each other next week. Thank you and bye-bye.
Yes, see you next week. Bye-bye.